Well, we begin by giving you the story of President Felix Tshisekedi and, of course, the EACRF meeting to discuss. And, of course, we have our correspondent from East Africa who will be giving us more details. Now, if you recall that the EACRF has been, would I say, accused of cohabiting with terrorists. Well, anyways, we have our East Africa correspondent, Daron Bartlett, who will be giving us more details. Good morning, Baron.
Good morning. How are you?
Fine, thank you. So what would you say about the discussions that Tshisekedi and this EACRF are about to have?
Now, if you recall well, since DRC joined the bloc of the East African Community, which is the EACA, one of the mandates for the East African Community was to to provide security in the region. And here you find countries like South Sudan and DRC are the ones that have the most insecurity issues. And we all know what is happening in DRC is that the M23 have been in the eastern part of the country and caused a lot of insecurity in that region there. Hence, bringing the discussion of providing security or the clause of bringing security back to the eastern part of Congo came to the table, and the East African countries deployed in the eastern part of Congo, which had Ugandan forces, Kenyan forces, Burundian forces. We saw South Sudan deploying as well to ensure that they flush out the M23. Now, even before they deployed it, the M23 and the East African bloc leaders had a discussion on how to bring peace. And one of the ways of implementing it was that the M23 actually withdraw from the key places that they had taken. Now, if I take you back in history up to like 2004, the M23 have ever taken the city of Goma, which is the biggest city in the eastern part of Congo, and later on withdrew. And, you know, some of them joined the army of the DRC and some of them completely went back to the areas they were until they resurfaced recently. Now, the President Tshisekedi has not been satisfied with what the EACE has been doing, and according to him, he felt like they are instead working with the rebels instead of flashing them out. What he wanted was that the East African forces actually combats with the M23 and completely put them out. And he has said that if the East African Community has not done that by June, he is willing to bring in the South African development body, which is the SADC, which comprises, of course, with other countries like Angola, Namibia, South Africa, Zambia, Namibia, and all those countries in the southern part bloc to come and help in the situation, which is a little bit tricky, if you ask me, because it's not the first time that the Southern African bloc is going to be deployed in DRC to fight the same cause. South Africa has ever deployed 1,020 troops in DRC. Namibia, Angola, Zimbabwe have all deployed there before, and it's the same bloc. Nothing happened in terms of the results, the kind of results that President Tshisekedi wants, just that it was in the times of Joseph Kabila. What happened was that they just brought calm to the community, and security was installed, though it didn't flush out the actual rebels that Tshisekedi wants to put out. We've seen armies from Senegal, Morocco, Tunisia, all of them deploy in Eastern Congo, but it has always been the same result. It's just that the rebels retreat back, sit back, and after a very long time, they resurface again. Now, I think that the redeployment of the Southern Bloc army does not necessarily solve the problem. So we need to actually understand what the problem is, and those are the issues that they need to solve. Otherwise, the approach of fighting the M23 with an aim of flashing them rather than having discussions with them may cause again future insecurities by them remobilizing themselves and attacking again the country.
I think there might also be I just want to chip in. I think there might also be some level of a trust deficit between Felix Tshisekedi and the EACRF. I think he might feel, or he just doesn't trust that those forces are being sincere in the fight. Or there might be certain factors that he just has lost trust with. Do you agree with that as quickly as possible?
I don't know if it's about trust, but I think given that there's a history where Uganda and Rwanda were accused of backing the M23, and in fact, Uganda was fined and had to pay a lot of money in terms of compensation to DRC. I think that is the history that they kind of use to believe that the East African forces are not doing enough to flush out the M23. But I think it's the matter of approach in terms of what could be the result. What are the consequences of an actual war in the eastern part of DRC versus conversations or negotiations on bringing this in on the table and understanding what they want and how to give it to them. I mean, see, these conversations worked in South Sudan, where Garanga's army fought against the main Sudan, and the conversation was that we needed an independence. We need to come off the actual Sudan and create South Sudan, where we have the same race. Of course, then there are blacks and Christians, whereas the northern was Arabs and Muslims. So that kind of conversation needs to happen. Maybe that's what the M23 want. Who knows? Maybe they want to have to be. First of all, we all know that they want to be recognized as DRC citizens, not just as Rwandans living in or Tutsis living in DRC. Maybe that's the conversation that they should talk rather than let's confront you by battle, because we've seen the M23 proving to be more organized than the actual DRC forces.
Yeah. All right. Really heartbreaking, and of course, unfortunately, in all these crises, there's the people that suffer. But let's move to something slightly different. What measures do you think will be put in place to ensure the successful integration of refugees and host communities as Kenya transitions the Dadaab and Kukuma refugee camps into integrated settlements?
Now, the Dadaab and Kakumu refugee camps have been the biggest in Kenya, and have been hosting mostly people from Eritrea and Somalia. Those are countries that have been having issues of famine and also terrorism issues, some from Ethiopia and also Sudan. Very few Ugandans, but those went there for different reasons. We'll handle that another time. And so these people have been going into Kenya, about 800, 900,000 people. And Kenya happens to be the fifth country in terms of holding the biggest number of refugees in that country. So they thought that these camps have been also attracting issues of insecurity. For example, the attack on the Westgate and the university way back ago. These terrorism issues have been, organized within these camps. So the government felt like they need to merge them, integrate them, and put them in a different community where they should go through a particular process before they actually join into these camps. Where the camps are allocated today, which is in kind of the western part of Kenya, has been kind of like a hub of insecurity many of the times. So relocating it and putting processes is going to be very key, and that's what the government wants to look at, to provide enough security and also prevent terror attacks, given that the Somali government right now is fighting the Al-Shabaab more than they have ever done, including other forces, the AU forces in there. But again, they have put in place a system where the refugees will now be able to apply for things like identity and also enjoy rights like any other refugee, things like employment, things like being able to open up businesses and integrate in communities, but through a certain process, rather than just keeping them in a camp. They have been there and has been terrorists. So government is putting in place that kind of system that when they come, how long do they take to register? First of all, screening, who are they? And also, how long should they take to apply for things like identity cards to show that they are refugees, and also giving them opportunities to enjoy like any other Kenyan who has been around, to also move away from that place that has been strategic, which is the western part of Kenya, being so strategic for the terrorists to be able to operate from there. So yeah, they are moving, integrate them in a little bit further from that place, from that Dadaab and Kakuma, to be able to put them in a place that they feel are more secure and can also access basic services like water and away from drought.
Okay, well.
All right, thank you so much to our East African correspondent, Daron Bartlett, for keeping us up to date on what's going on in East Africa.
Enjoy your day.
Good to see you. Have a great weekend, Daron.